welcome to Man Them Chat, people. This week is for the first time we're actually going live on Facebook. Sorry for the glitches earlier, but you know, these things happen. But we're trying to make sure we get everything right for the big discussion next week where we got the legendary Ricky Hill in the place. Tonight's discussion is around Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the great 20th century Pan-Africanist. And this evening, we will explore if Garvey's philosophy and vision is still relevant today. So what we're going to do, we're going to probably kick off with a short little video and then come and discuss. And then we're going to play another video and then we'll discuss a little bit more, if that's okay with everyone.
All right.
Over to you, Skip.
Yes, sir.
Marcus Garvey wanted to return African Americans to Africa to create a vibrant Black nation, empowered through economic independence. Although some of his goals were controversial, his crusade would inspire leaders from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela.
Garvey was certainly a controversial figure, but the concepts that we now think of as Black nationalism and Black pride started with Garvey's pronouncements.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, on August 17, 1887. Beginning as a printer's apprentice at 14, Garvey became a union organizer and later worked various jobs across Central America.
Marcus Garvey found wherever he went, Black people of the African heritage in particular were always on the lower stratification end of society. This had a profound impact on him. Particularly, his concern was for the uplift of African people globally.
In 1912, Garvey sailed to London, England, and took night courses at Birkbeck College. After working for a Pan-African newspaper, Garvey returned to Jamaica in 1914 and formed the United Negro Improvement Association, or UNIA.
The UNIA was about Black self-determination. It was about galvanizing the ideas of Black repatriation to motherland, the continent of Africa. And it was extremely important in terms of getting Black people to understand self-pride, pride in one's race.
Inspired by Booker T. Washington to raise funds and start his own school, Garvey came to the United States in 1916 and in 1918 began publishing the Negro World newspaper.
Garvey was extremely outspoken. He was, some people would say, almost bombastic. He wanted to take over Africa and had elected himself as president of Africa without consulting the African delegation.
Determined to achieve economic independence for African Americans, Garvey launched the Negroes Factories Association in 1919 and a shipping company called the Black Star Line, which he planned to use to transport passengers back to Africa.
Garvey was a great organizer, but unfortunately not a great businessman. During the time that Garvey and the UNIA were trying to launch the Black Star Line, they solicited funds from investors for stock options through the mail. And this resulted later on in allegations of mail fraud, and Garvey was convicted and sent to prison.
After serving 5 years in prison, Garvey was deported. He eventually moved to London, and in 1938, he supported the Greater Liberia Act, created by known white supremacist, Senator Theodore Bilbo from Mississippi.
Marcus Garvey's association with Senator Bilbo is related more on a practical level rather than an intellectual like for each other. Marcus Garvey's attempt to help Africans in America leave and go to Africa fell in line with some aspects of KKK philosophy.
Garvey died in London on June 10, 1940. He was reinterred in Jamaica in 1964 and is hailed as Jamaica's first national hero and the prophet of the Rastafarian religion.
Although Garvey was a flawed leader, he's someone who is really important to the history of the Black radical tradition. He was probably one of the strongest forces of Black nationalism in history.
All right, so that's just a short clip of, you know, just a vague clip of Garvey. So the main question is Garvey's Pan-Africanist dream or idea, vision, whatever you want to call it, is it still relevant today? Anyone want to open the discussion?
Yeah, I think it will be relevant in 100 years' time as well.
Yeah.
Being what he was doing, the way I'm looking at it, simple. If we do the work, anything that you do, you have to put in work. Whether you're an artist, footballer, you got to do DJ, selector, you got to put in the work. Got record track, you got to invest all that into what you want at the end. Yeah. So on a community setting now, the problem what I see with the community don't own their own issues. Yeah. They never want to give up time. And at the same time, they want the best thing to happen. It's never going to happen though, is it? Because it's the work that's got put in. Meaning, all right, Garvey's telling us we've got to organize. Yeah, it's true, we have to. We've got to get together, have the chat, and at the end of the chat, there's going to be some action. Somebody's going to have to do something. Because if the person don't do something, that means there's nothing coming back to the discussion that we had in that meeting.
That's right.
And I find out most of the time is nobody ain't carrying out the work, but we expect the best breadfruit and the best banana and the best everything. And when you look at the community, they're doing the same thing, but they're carrying out everything. They ain't doing nothing different. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of that is on us. All right, my granny always used to say, if you didn't send somebody to the shop, why do you expect to get anything? And it's simple. So the people that have to own Marcus Garvey idea and work it, and then improvement will come.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a great template. Start with that and build on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For real. Anybody else want to have anything to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, hands up, guys. Abdul first.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that Marcus Garvey was a seer. You know, he was a seer, like, so, you know, his comments are quite relevant today, definitely, because as is, you know, it's like if we're still in the same position to when he was around, like, you know, so we haven't moved an inch, like we haven't moved an inch to where we were when he was around, like, you know, so his views is quite relevant today, definitely.
Yeah. There's no doubt in terms of organizing around, like Rick Ninja said, doing the work, but most importantly, being independent. So that will always be relevant, you know. But I guess there's still many aspects to what he brought, right? So as far as everybody moving back to Africa.
Can you turn your mic up a bit, please, Paul? Can't hear you clearly.
I've got earpieces in, so.
All right. Go ahead, brother.
Any better, no?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, as far as everybody moving back to Africa, I'm not sure that's relevant. Yeah, I'm not sure about that being relevant because obviously we can organize and be a B1 unit, whichever part of the world we're in. But as far as, you know, being independent and building organizations and businesses, then yeah, that's always going to be relevant, and especially as a community. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Ricardo.
Well, go on. All right.
Blessed. Anything to say on the subject?
You know, I've just come in and I missed the whole thing, you know, but I'll just catch the last question there. So as far as I'm concerned, the philosophy of Marcus Garvey we're dealing with, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, the back to Africa, not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessary.
We're there, yeah? We're here.
Yeah. Aside from the fact that they're no army, you get me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not like the Pan-African movement is nowhere as strong now as it was then. The ties aren't as strong as it was then, because then segregation, that's what we were dealing with, and that's what tied us with Africa, because it was a stand against who was seen as the oppressor then as the white man. All right, now, as far as I'm concerned, black people oppress black people as much as white people oppress black people. So yeah, the back to Africa thing don't make it for me.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I hear that still.
Garvey did also say he wasn't saying for everyone to come as well. He was quite selective. He didn't.
Yeah, he did say that it's not for everyone to come back. Yeah, that was a point that he made, wasn't it?
Because he said some of the men were too whatless and didn't deserve to come.
Wow.
Can I add a little bit on that part, the Africa thing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
To a certain aspect, I think that's correct. But what I would interpret is we need to go to Africa. Trust me, we do. But not necessarily to live. Yeah? We're talking about we should be going over there having holidays, that kind of stuff, and vice versa. They'll be coming to the Caribbean, the people. You get what I'm saying? Because when you check out what's going on in the world, Europe support Europe, don't they? Spain them go up, France, it's the same thing. So it's not to say, all right, we know the wickedness of what's going on over there still. But at the same time, there's so much problem in the tribalism and all this kind of thing. But the reality is, me personally, wouldn't mind go over there, go up on holiday and check out where I go on, and then I come back here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm supporting them still. That's the way I kind of look at it. Because they're not different from the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they're over there and we are over here. So we have to kind of merge. And then we can get their culture better and they can get our culture better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's still the same one people still, you understand?
Yeah, it's a form of unification, isn't it? We do need to communicate with each other and unite with each other in that way.
Not gonna
to get to know each other, at least.
100 years.
Network.
Yeah, that's right. Network, teamwork, make the dream work. Rafaro, your hands up, brother.
Yeah.
Rafaro?
Your microphone's on.
All right. Can you hear me now, everyone?
Yes, family.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, greetings, everyone. I've just been listening. My name is Rafaro. I'm very new to this discussion, and I'm just loving it and learning, about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, for me, the Black Star Line, for me, I mean, I look at the flag of Ghana, and I look at the whole Kwame Nkrumah philosophy, and I see the Marcus Garvey imprint all over. Sorry, I'm trying to balance my, let me hold it. All right. So I see the imprint and the footprint of Marcus Garvey everywhere around Africa. So yes, he is relevant. He will always be relevant. His movement, his ideas, of course, they were not perfect. He wasn't like what the other video. He was very pragmatic, but I mean, I wasn't there. But from the people who know him better, they say that he was a very pragmatic person. But obviously, I'm not sure whether being not intellectual is a good description of him. But I'm sure he was a businessman. We can say a lot about Marcus Garvey until the time when the Pan-Africanist movement was formed in 1900. All those people that were there, Dubois, and all those people who were there, they were inspired by Marcus Garvey. And we went to the Pan-Africanism where Kwame was invited in 43, was it in Manchester? All those people were inspired by Marcus Garvey. So Marcus Garvey will forever be relevant, all right? But what I see happening in the Pan-Africanist movement right now is the Pan-Africanist movement itself is losing relevance in Africa, because I think there is all those things that we have. Obviously, somebody mentioned that the Pan-Africanist movement was formed to take care of segregation, racial segregation, and all those things that were happening within the African diaspora. Pan-Africanism is a diaspora movement. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was formed here. But what happened, correct me if I'm wrong, some of our African leaders, they ended up distorting Pan-Africanism. Okay, people ended up using it for their own selfish reasons. We see it happening today. So that's what's distorting the whole movement back to Africa. I agree with the brother who said, I don't know if you guys have noticed what's been happening in Ghana right now. A lot of Black Americans right now, African Americans, Black Americans are wrong too. African Americans and all those people, they are finding their roots in Ghana. Why? Because the Ghanaian president who was there right now and all those people, they've decided to recede from the whole, taking Pan-Africanism like it's a family business. Pan-Africanism is not a family business. Pan-Africanism has always been formed around social ideas, things that affect people, everyday issues. So for it to be relevant to people right now, what we have to tailor make it right. Or somebody said, I don't know if you guys watch these things. There's this, I watched a lot of TED Talks, social Pan-Africanism. A young kid from South Africa spoke about social Pan-Africanism in, I think it was TED Talks in Houston. So social Pan-Africanism is a concept that we pursue so that our young people they need to know who Marcus Garvey is. Everybody knows who George Washington is, but nobody knows who. They need to know who Marcus Garvey is. And I think we need to make it relevant through social Pan-Africanism. I'll submit that for now.
All right. Thank you, Pharaoh. Desmond, you got your hand up?
Yes. I'd like to just maybe make a few points. Now, Marcus Garvey, for me, was a bit of a controversial figure because, on the one hand, when he started out, a lot of his support came from white people. Because in Jamaica, when he started out, the African Jamaican people didn't really appreciate him. And that's one of the reasons he went to America. Now, some of his ideas were a bit too deterministic in the sense that he, for example, said there would never be a Black mayor in America. There would never be a Black president. Now, many of Garvey's ideas that are attributed to Garvey was not actually his. They belong to Edward Blyden, who is considered the father of Pan-Africanism. Now, Garvey himself was a Catholic and he believed in capitalism. And for instance, C.L.R. James criticized him for criticizing the Trinidadian oil worker when they went on strike, because Garvey said they shouldn't have gone on strike. And he believed that capitalism was the way forward. Now, I sometimes think that Pan-Africanism and Garveyism weren't in unison. And many of the Pan-Africanists, although they accepted people like Kwame Nkrumah, or would I say Prophet Kwame Nkrumah, accepted some of Garvey's idea. These ideas were already established by Edward Blyden from the 20th century. Now, when we consider that Kwame Nkrumah was a socialist and Garvey was a conservative, he was described as a reactionary conservative, and he wasn't of the camp of supporting socialism. And the Pan-African movement was a movement against colonialism and the enslavement of Africans. So it was a way of uniting Africa. But as Edward Blyden said, if you want to get away from racism, you have to go back to Africa. And fortunately, the system of colonialism, or what you call neocolonialism, has spread so widely in Africa now that Garvey ideas are nil and void because they cannot address the challenges that Africa is facing today. You have a lot of intra or conflict between different groups within Africa that is supported externally. I mean, I sometimes laugh that Africans were supposed to be liberated from colonialism, yet all the countries that have been liberated from colonialism adapted their colonial master's language. Now, when a people is immersed in the language of the colonialists, as Carter G. Woodson said, if you don't provide a door for him to go to the back, he'll make one. So you find that African leaders now are not in touch with their people because they're more supportive of capitalists. And ever since the 70s with Reagan and Thatcher, particularly in the 80s, you had the restructuring where Western bankers or Western capitalists through the IMF and the World Bank have bankrupt most of the developing economies. And Africa is no exception. So Africa may have gold, but they don't own it. In South Africa, the people were sold out by Mandela because 70% of the land is owned by 10% of the white population. So although they've had the privilege of putting a 5-second X on a bit of paper, they're still living without running water. They're still living without proper sewage, without proper health care.
Are you put your hand up on this thing?
Sorry to cut in. Yeah, you just, if you find where your name is on the
So
side.
I'm just saying, basically, for all these and other reasons, Garvey's vision is of little relevance today because the challenges that are now being faced by melanated people globally is beyond what Garvey would understood. And even if you think of Rastafarianism, I mean, Garvey would have been appalled to think that people was looking at Selassie as a god because his Catholic belief was very strong. And even the Pan-African Conference of 45, even though he had passed over by then, many of the Pan-Africanists did not think much of Garvey. People like C.L.R. James didn't think much of him because and even the newspaper he worked for in London, they forgot the name of the owner, said he was a bit of a hustler. So it was a controversial case, no doubt. And people will pick people what they want. But in terms of looking at the real issues today, we're looking at neo-colonialism, where countries are owned by bankers. And the capitalist system is accumulating at such a fast rate that I'll give you a simple example. When Jamaica gained independence, it had a very strong currency. It was exporting food. Now Jamaica has to borrow money from the IMF to pay the interest on debt that they already owe. They haven't built a school in 30-odd years. They haven't built an hospital in 30-odd years. Portmore, a massive population, haven't even got an hospital. The road can't be fixed. And the few tourism industry is controlled by Jewish conglomerate. And you go to a all-inclusive, you leave the money in Britain, you go there and you don't do no trickle down because you don't even allowed to go and meet the people and buy anything.
So we're talking about mismanagement to a certain degree.
Well, it's part of the leaders have sold out to capitalism. So capitalists will buy the government and the government will then allow them to do what they want. And the people have no say in what's going on.
All right. Okay, I hear that.
Corruption, mismanagement, as you say. But Ricky, I saw you had your hand up. You're supposed to use the hand signal, but I know you.
You do the hand signal. I don't even know how to do the hand signal.
You ask the question.
Abdul, yeah.
Yeah, you just go into the three dots and then you would see it. But ask a question and then after Abdul's got a question as well because he's got his hand up.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Go on,
well, really, I just wanted to say this still, yeah. When it comes to Garvey and his philosophy, I was only saying that the back to Africa part of it is not necessary. Yeah. But his philosophy itself and the way he went about his movement, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes you don't have to be the most intellectual. You don't have to be the most academic. You get me? Sometimes it takes a person who can bring ones together and be a driving force. And that's what Garvey was at the height of his movement. It was a driving force. And I'm sure when you check that it was over like 500,000 people. And in them times there, no internet, no nothing. Yeah, over 500,000 people were part of this movement. And this was men, this was women, this was kids. And these were all people that were once in that movement. They weren't involved in crime. They weren't, it was a coming together of a community. That was a community building operation right there. Regardless of the mismanagement, regardless of the mistakes, there's nobody that's perfect. And Garvey wasn't perfect.
Of course.
But the vision that he had to bring those people together is something that is very relevant today, because that bringing together of community can happen anywhere. Yeah, I mean, certain parts of the philosophy, because right now, that was for that time. That was for that time. So when you're looking at how he was dealing with white people in that time, is not how you're going to deal with white people in this time, because we're not dealing with that level of segregation. You get me? Although we got glass ceilings and we got different kinds of
the battle is different, isn't it? The battle is different. They was dealing with real.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a force that they was against.
Yeah, and his philosophy to bring ones together. Yeah, that's a powerful thing, and it's needed now, because as I said, that can happen anywhere, and it's not necessarily that it has to happen with just black people, because this is my concern when it comes to all of this thing. Right now, there's a class of people, there's a level of people that take advantage of everybody, and part of that advantage that they take is setting ones on ones against each other.
That's right. Classes. It's a classist thing.
It's
not always just a racial thing.
In part, it's a classist thing. It's not just a racial thing. It's a corruption of faith. You get me? That sets ones and ones together against each other. You get me? All of these things we're meant to set aside, and community is all ones. And when it comes to the brother, sorry brother, I forget your name. You did mention the Rasta thing and Selassie as God. Yeah. It's not all Rasta that checks that Selassie is God, my friend. Yeah. It's certain house of Rasta that hold that belief there. And hold to
I was just saying what Garvey would have
all Rasta that believe Selassie is God. Selassie
Brethren, don't get me wrong. I was merely referencing.
Hold on. One at a time, please. One at a time, please.
No, go on.
Let him finish, Desmond, and then you can come in.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just referencing in the fact that Garvey was a Catholic, a staunch Catholic, and he would not have accepted a man being worshipped as a god. He wouldn't have done that. And he didn't accept Selassie as a god, because he actually said Selassie was some kind of a feudal king who treated his people like slave and serf. You know what I mean? So Garvey did not rate Selassie.
All right.
Okay, but that's sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Abdul, you did have something to say? No? All right, go on in, Ricardo.
It's so slip right out of my head, you know.
No worry, man.
I was actually muted. Yeah, I do have something to say.
Okay.
I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, Garvey, as I says, I have to reiterate, his movement, his philosophy is still relevant today, and I feel the only way things are going to change is when the young people actually have access to Marcus Garvey's philosophy. You see, and I think they will eventually have the young people will rise up. The young black people will rise up to the point and take power. Because I've been looking at a video today on YouTube about it's called the African Diaspora News Channel, and there was a white lady there, who a South African lady. She was talking about how South Africa, the majority of South Africa is worshiping whiteness. You know, they're worshiping white people like if they're gods. They're worshiping their oppressor as if they're gods, like, you know. So you know, I mean, she says that the young that haven't got that such a mentality. The young, the future is actually in the young, because the young, she can actually visualize that the young will rise up because they have a different mentality as opposed to the older generation. They're stuck in their ways. They view whiteness as gods, as superior race and everything. So nothing will change. Nothing will change until the young rise up, because nothing stays the same. Nothing whatsoever in life stays the same. You know, it doesn't matter how much, you know, people try to make things stay the same. It will never remain the same. Life never stays the same.
True. Thank you, Abdul. Desmond and then Patrick.
Oh, is my hand still up?
No, it's down now.
Okay. Basically,
okay.
As I said, Garvey was a controversial figure, and some of his ideas were not new because they were already preached by, as I said, people like Edward Blyden. And the idea was that because Africa in 1884 was carved up amongst the six European powers, including America, then Blyden said, well, the only way that Africa could ever be emancipated is that if people go back to Africa, they will escape racism. And Africa, until it's united, in other words, colonialism divided Africa in terms of the six powers' fears of control. And the only way you can counteract that form of colonialism is for the people to unite. And this is what Kwame Nkrumah took from Marcus Garvey, who took it from Edward Blyden, the idea of one Africa. Now, when in 1945, this was arranged at Manchester with the Pan-African movement, Kwame Nkrumah was involved with that as well. And it was a socialist movement. So it was socialism. And as Prophet Kwame Nkrumah said, it's an African kind of socialism. And that's why he was trying to make stronger links with China and the Soviet Union. And the CIA and MI16 organized an overthrow of him while he was in China. And the CIA celebrated when he was overthrown and said the greatest threat to their interest in Africa was Kwame Nkrumah. And his philosophy is more relevant today than Marcus Garvey, because there needs to be, for example, Kwame Nkrumah established schools. He tried to unite with Togo, and the British armed the Togans to fight Kwame Nkrumah. So if you look at the politics of what happened, the CIA actually said it only took a bit of surplus rice and surplus wheat to overthrow one of the greatest leaders Africa ever saw. And that's what he was sold out for, because the people who overthrew him, their descendants are the one in power today in Ghana. And that's why Ghana is more or less finished, because it's taken a part where it's borrowed money from foreign bankers and the leaders have siphoned it off. And Africa is in a desperate situation. So the Pan-African movement is still relevant compared to Marcus Garvey, back to Africa, because you don't have to go back to Africa to achieve a sense of being African. Wherever you are, you're African.
You're African.
Yeah.
Well, I think a few of the patrons are saying the same thing. You don't
Patrick,
necessarily have to.
Sorry.
1 minute, Marv. You don't have to travel back to Africa to be African, let's just say. Patrick? Oh, sorry, Marvin?
No. I was gonna say, let Patrick ask his question because we got that second.
Yeah, after Patrick, we'll run another.
Want to run, and it's like 8 minutes.
Yeah. Right. What I'm gonna say is like to inspire the next generation about Marcus Garvey or historical stuff, whatever it is. Yeah. Now, what I do remember as a youth growing up in Luton, yeah. This is when I was about 12, 13. The Rasta movement in Luton was very strong and it had a lot of young people in it. Yeah? And somewhere along the line, it got derailed and everything scattered. There was less people around in those times than is now, but yet still they were very active. So that means they were doing stuff, doing work. Now you got good numbers. It's just numbers because the work that needs doing ain't really been done. We can talk about historical stuff, history, but at the end of the day, the work that Marcus Garvey and others that said that need doing, until that kind of start get doing, then we'll just be reading books and talking about this again. We need to get the young people then to start.
I agree.
Get their friend and start cooperating, and that's what we need. You know what I mean? Can't see nothing else.
Sure, I hear that.
Oh, that's my little piece.
All right, we're gonna run to Then we just run the one video, another little clip, and then Ricardo and then Blacks. Yeah?
Yeah, go on, bro. Could everyone mute their mics as well while the video's running, please?
Family, it is Caden with Urban Finance. And
right, from the beginning.
What's up, family? It is Caden with Urban Finance. And today we're going to be talking about why Marcus Garvey's dream did not come to fruition, or why he did not succeed in his endeavors. And before I jump into why he didn't succeed, I will give you a brief history of Marcus Garvey. And so Marcus Garvey was born in the island of Jamaica on August 17, 1887. He was born to a middle-class Jamaican family. They actually had a pretty good lifestyle. His father had land and property. Towards the later half of his father's life, unfortunately, he lost most of his wealth through some bad business deals, leaving the family almost broke, which caused a real huge strain on the family, because it was one thing if you were born poor. To go from a middle-class family to being poor was a bit of a disgrace. The good thing is Garvey did get a good education for someone of his stature, and he was always an adventurous young man. Marcus Messiah Garvey was a political activist. He was a business person, an entrepreneur. He was always a journalist throughout his entire life. He
Sorry, 1 minute.
did a little bit of work in law school, and he was an amazing orator. And that is one of the things that he really became famous for or launched his career. In 1916, Marcus Messiah Garvey Jr. moved to Harlem, New York, which was pretty much the epicenter of the Black world at that time. And that was always his dream, to come to America. While in Harlem, he started the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which at its height boasts about 4 million members. But it really did not start there. Garvey is also widely known for starting the Black Star Line, which was a global shipping company that focused specifically on delivering goods to Africans across the diaspora. Garvey was known for starting a lot of businesses like the Universal Printing House, the Negro Factory Corporation. He also started restaurants and various other types of businesses. It was often said about Caribbean people during this time that once they had 10 cents over a beggar, that they will start a business. And that was meant to be a derogatory statement. But as someone that is from Trinidad, I know that to be true, and also see it as a compliment, because we love starting businesses. It is what it is. Now, jumping into why Marcus Garvey's dream didn't come to fruition to the degree that he planned on it. While many of our scholars today love Marcus Garvey and his story and history, that was not true for the scholars, the Black scholars during his time, most notably W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois' idea was that the talented 10s would be the people to usher Africans into the next age. And for him, Garvey did not fit that bill. In a lot of his writing, he would make derogatory statements about Garvey, trying to make it seem that his movement was purely a Black Caribbean movement and not necessarily a Black African American movement as well. Du Bois would soon to come to find out that the majority of the people that did make up Garvey's movement were actually African Americans that was frustrated with the times. And Du Bois, who now was the HNIC after Booker T. Washington's death, didn't want this newcomer encroaching on his territory. So he set out to destroy Garvey's movement. The fact that W.E. Du Bois actively tried to destroy Garvey's movement wasn't the only reasons for Garvey's not having success. It was just a part of it. And just a quick sidebar, today we see the same thing. Division and fighting amongst Black leadership. Everyone's trying to carve out a territory for themselves. And it doesn't even matter if the people that they're trying to help get hurt as a result of it, as long as they can remain in control. And so that was a problem in 1916 and when Garvey was and Du Bois was operating, and it's a problem today. And unless Black leadership learn to put the needs of our people first before their own, then any movement that we start will probably meet the same results. The other part of it is that J. Edgar Hoover and the entire American government did not like the message that Garvey was preaching. And so the government actively tried to deport Garvey. There were several cases that were brought against Garvey by J. Edgar Hoover that attempted to deport him, but because of insufficient evidence, they were thrown out by judges. Obviously, this did not stop J. Edgar Hoover from trying to destroy his movement. There are a lot of things on record now about spies within Garvey's organization, people of African American descent who worked for the Bureau and that tried to destroy the organization. And so we see the same idea that we get from COINTELPRO, and I'm not going to go into that now. There were also a lot of people in Garvey's organization that tried to line their pockets with the money that the organization brought in, and that were getting kickbacks for the deal. For example, one of the ships that they attempted to board was actually valued about $30,000, and they end up paying $120,000 for that particular ship. The person that went out to get their deal got a kickback, so they didn't have incentive to make sure that they get the best price. And so people in leadership lining their pockets is another reason for Garvey's organization end up failing. And we see that today as well. So the two books that you can read that I got a lot of this information from is A Negro with a Hat, The Rise and Fall of Marcus Garvey, and Emancipation from Mental Slavery. And I'll definitely leave a link to those videos below. But if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button and like this video. And also, so just to summarize it, the three things that led to Garvey's failure was the government throughout the entirety of his success tried to actively destroy his organization and deport him because of the rabble-rousing he was causing amongst African Americans. The second thing, infighting between Black leadership who thought that their idea was the best. And it wasn't just W.E. Du Bois, there were others that Garvey constantly fight with who disagreed with how he chose to advance the race. Some people would have liked to do it more politically, like W.E. Du Bois. And the third thing that led to the failure or ultimately the fall of Marcus Garvey was also the fact that individuals inside of the organizations were lining their pockets instead of focusing on the success of the organization. So as I always say, thank you for watching. I hope this was informative. Love you and live your best life.
All right. Aduma.
Yeah, hello, Skipper Lincoln, how you doing?
Greetings, brother.
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, okay. That's good. Ricardo, your hand was up, and then after you is Blacks. Ricardo?
Unmute the mic. You hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whether you agree fully with the philosophy of Marcus Garvey or not, I think that too many people don't like to look back, and we have to look back to the people that are preeminent within our history, and I'm talking of so-called Black people, and take example from them, because within everything, there's lessons that we can take, use, and move and go forward with. And Garvey is definitely, there was aspects of him.
Ricky, sorry, Ricky. Sorry, Ricky. Anduma and Mark, can you mute your mic if you ain't got questions? Because we're getting too much noises coming through. I don't know where that's coming from. Continue, Ricky. Sorry.
It's mine. I don't think it's mine.
Yeah, mute your mic, Anduma, until you've got a question to ask, please.
So I'm muting him. Go ahead, Ricardo.
No worries. Continue, Ricky. Unmute your mic, brother. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. I thought I did unmute it. Yeah. Whether you agree with his philosophy or not, wholly, there's a lot that can be taken from Marcus Garvey. And as a so-called Black people, we gotta give credence to those that have come before us and use the best of them to go forward. Because right now, it's like we accept what's happening around us. And the most acceptance we take is the leaders that we have adopting the philosophy of the leaders all around the world. It doesn't matter if you're Black, if you're white, they're all doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing. And there's going to be no change within, it doesn't matter if it's a community here in the UK, if it's the community in Africa or in the West Indies. So long as we're buying into the same system, there's going to be no change. And it's everybody that suffers under that system. So when you talk about the youths and what the youths have got to do, at the end of the day, the youths aren't going to make no changes to the way they're living if we, as the elder generation now, can't show them a way. You've got to be an example.
Yeah,
you've got to
set a better example.
Lead by example. You've got to show them a way. You've got to show them so that you have self-control. You get me? You can't be out there and have 10 women and then tell a man so that you can't have 10 girls. You get me? You can't have a mum raising a son or daughter, and having a daughter have man in the yard. You can't have a man raising his son and having X amount of girl in the yard. This is not how you're gonna build community. You get me? Because at the end of the day, imagine you're trying to build a community, and in this community now, you see this man's running 10 girls, this girl's running 10 man. How can the community build? It's fracture. You got to have some structure to it. You get me?
Sure.
You've got to be the example. You've got to be an example in all aspects.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yep.
Thank you, Ricardo. Blaps, you there, brother? Blaps, did you have something to say? Not there at the moment. What's he doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, brother.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. This mic thing wasn't working. All right. Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening, bro.
To take you back in time, only about to the 70s, where our people came over in the 60s, and they were the first people arriving, and they were the Windrush people, and they were all coming off the boat. Oh, you just arrived. Oh, you just arrived. Nice one. Okay, this is where our community is. We go to these places. This is where we meet and discuss our problems. This are our issues. If we have a problem with the police, if we have a problem with the council, if we have a problem with, this is where we meet and discuss it, and we deal with these issues. And we had all the strong people coming out, setting the path for the next generation. I'm the second generation. I have children. When they come to in the 70s, they had the Garvey vision, they had all this. They'd say, yeah, we're going to another country. We're going to bring that vision there, and we're going to deal with it exactly how Garvey said, or somewhere in between. And they got oppressed, complete oppressed, proper racism. And so now they were seeing the police every day. Now I'm second generation. I grew up not seeing the police as much, but still seeing a lot of police. Now my children grow up, they've never been talked to by the police. You see what I'm saying? So it's getting better. So now I'm asking you, where's the passion when we haven't got no community centers? We haven't got this problem that we're being oppressed harshly. We can achieve just like they can achieve now. It's what we always dreamed. It's finally coming true. Why the fourth generation comes here now? Why are we talking about going to Africa? You see what I'm saying? It's only about finding out your history. And it's like one of these things where I had a huge interest, I still do have an interest in Taoism. And I became so obsessed with it that I got to the point where I'm a qualified monk, Taoist monk. And I was going to go to China to Wu Dai. Has anyone seen the Karate Kid, the Jackie Chan one?
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
man.
Yeah.
Right. A place called White Cloud Temple. And in the Jackie Chan one, he takes Jaden Smith to this place up loads of stairs and everything. That was the exact place I was going to train. Right? So it was a place in the movie, but it's a real place in Beijing, White Cloud Temple. I actually stood up in the cinema and I'm going there. Anyway, so now when I told the British Taoist Society I want to go and further my study, they said, what for? Why are you going to China for? And I was like, well, they've got a deeper knowledge. He goes, no, they don't know anything that we don't know. What are you going there for? Stay here and teach people here. So it's the same thing. When you're going to, we came over to make a better life for ourselves, fine, blah, blah, blah. We had the Garvey vision. We didn't install it here because we're too oppressed. Second, third generation, less oppressed. I'm going to ask you, where are you going to get this passion to tell people to go back to Africa?
Well, as you say that, Blacks, so far, all the patrons are saying that it's not so much about returning to Africa. I'm not too sure if anyone else disagrees with that, but so far, everyone's saying that it's not about that at the moment. We're going to take the best of what Marcus Garvey has said and put forward, take bullet points and say, all right, then, that was good, boom, boom, boom. Let's work off of that. Let's organize the kids. Let's organize the youth them. Let's get them with that kind of drive moving forward.
Can I make one real quick point as well?
Go on then.
When my mum and dad and aunties, my mum has 5 sisters, and my uncles all went back before 1990. They went back, took their stuff, sold off everything here and gone back as they're supposed to, right? I didn't have no guidance from them. You see what I mean? So if you're going to say, like, oh, we're all going to Africa now, what about the people left here? Where are they going to get guidance from if everyone's like going to Africa? You know what I mean? What are you going to spend take all your skills over there?
But again, sorry to cut you there, but again, like I said, most people so far has already said on here
that's
that
what
it's
I'm
not
saying.
about going. It's not about going back to Africa.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what we're saying.
It's my reason for saying I don't think it's necessary to go back.
Yeah. Okay. So you agree, yeah. Paul? Your time.
Yeah, I actually want to touch on the video and specifically what W.E. Du Bois mentioned about he said, well, the speaker said that W.E. Du Bois said about he would have preferred Marcus Garvey do his thing politically or involve politics. Now, this is an extremely important point because if you think about it, throughout our time in Western society, we haven't engaged in civic and political duties really to a great extent. It's really been a small extent. And look at our condition. right? I'm going to take you back in a bit of history. So up from slavery, right? I guess you had the Civil War, right? And you had the Southerners were actually removed from the Union. And part of the punishment of removing them from the Union was they couldn't vote. You know what was the result of that? Our people voted in their thousands, okay? They took office. This is up from slavery, this is 1960s, 1970s upwards. So this is what you had sort of as the foundation for things like Black Wall Street, okay? You had black politicians, mayors, etc., up from slavery. And this is where you get the video Birth of a Nation. If anybody's seen that, it's a black and white movie. It's a propaganda movie against our people. And they show images of our people in office eating chicken bones and then something there as a propaganda movie against us. It's called Birth of a Nation. But that was the foundation. So what you find is political power. When you have political power, you have control of the public pot. You understand? You have an influence in what happens in the community economically. Okay? So I think that was a great point. So if you think about it, if Marcus Garvey had that amount of people in his movement, I think he mentioned 4 million worldwide. If you put politics, if you put a voting power behind that, you know how powerful that is.
Yeah, he would have been very powerful, for real.
That's powerful. That's pure political power. And that's what I know Ricky said about, being within the system. But hold on. So you have to we live here. We live within this system. A system is a system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
We have to use the system.
Right. But think about how long they've tried to disenfranchise us from this system. Oh, back to when we controlled the majority of the legislators, right? In that time. You know what happened? It was a military takeover.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a military takeover. They call it race wars. It was literally a military takeover.
Mm.
So this is the game that they've been playing against us, to disenfranchise us from that part of society, So I just want to mention that. But there's another point I want to mention.
But the same as someone mentioned it before about, Marcus Garvey's philosophy is a great philosophy, brother, and I don't see anyone that's really outdone Marcus Garvey from them times till now. But you've just highlighted flaws in Marcus Garvey's approach to it. So that comes back to us, using Marcus Garvey's philosophies, but up-to-date tweaked version, isn't it?
You need to add on to it. That's what we're looking at. It's a case of the 10-point system.
And tweak it. Yeah, recognize where he made mistakes as well as what. Go on, Paul.
Yeah, I'm not knocking his philosophy at all. I said in the early part, it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying what W.E. Du Bois mentioned, I think is important. I think if that was
it's very powerful.
That happened. But if that would have happened, you know what I mean? But do you want to come in on that? Because I want to make one more
because point. You're right. I mean, that's the scenario in Luton, definitely, isn't it? Not even just Luton. This is the scenario broadly across the UK. We're not represented politically, not properly, no. I mean, MPs, councillors, those are the positions that we would have looked at our elders to have taken. And sadly, some of them haven't taken it. So then now, the distance between us as elders then to the youths now, they're saying, well, boy, you're not really doing that. You're not really going that. And you understand, we're not even in a position politically to even show them any form. So then, like you said, we're disenfranchised from that part of the system. So that means that it just leaves the criminal side then, isn't it? Where they feel they can make it. That's the side where they feel like, well, boy, if it's not that, we're going to go hard in that. This is where we're at. This is where we're at.
Our choices are limited.
Seems limited. Seems limited.
Well, it seems.
Yeah. It's not necessarily limited, but it seems.
But a good man would to comment on this part would be Patrick. Ricky, I saw your hand was up. But just because where we are in the conversation, allow Patrick just to say what he was going to say before you, brother.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Go on, Patrick. What you got to say?
Yeah, the video that we just watched. Yeah, that guy highlight exactly what's going on nowadays about individual, the community, where the community is very weak. Yeah.
Right.
The brother highlighted says the elders need to pass it on to the next generation. That is 100%. Yeah. But then again, when you look at it, if we as elderly, yeah, if we're gonna be fighting amongst ourselves, and we're not passing on what we need to pass on to the next lot, it'll be difficult to change. Yeah. So what I'm saying at the end of the day, like your group now, it's a positive thing. If we can influence no matter 20 people and give them some vibes and say, all right, you don't need to go out there and set up things, whatever it is, do things. Because that's what it's about. It's about doing things. You have like history lesson, and then you have something we call action. Yeah? Now, if there's action going on, like you're using this platform to bring in young people and educate them, but saying, we're not just giving you education, we have to tell you, you need to actually do something. Because if you don't do anything, having that knowledge that we tell you about Marcus Garvey ain't really going to change anything, is it? We all can tell stories. So we got to take bits from him and say, like, for instance, we need to set up a tree. All right, if you get this, get that, and we plant the tree, people come along.
The video is gone.
Yeah, people come along and they pick the orange. So that's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the reality side. It's about doing things. We're not doing enough. And when we do things, like the video tell us, we are fighting amongst ourselves. So that's one of the biggest problems. So we're not creating any growth.
But what's your views like in regards to in Luton, like our political stance in Luton and it being the reason why it seems like the black community especially don't have no say, no power, it seems.
All right. System, how does system operate? System been destroying us for hundreds of years, yeah? Remember, we've always had 5 black councils in Luton. Now we've probably got, I think, 2, yeah? So the political run's always been there. But we have to understand the system. System don't want us to deal with our own. They use their power to make sure we fail, just like they did to Marcus Garvey. You understand? Because if I was in there and I'm pro-black, yeah? The rest of them don't want to hear that. They're going to shut me down, innit? And then the people on the outside are going to say, we ain't got no political voice. But there's so much problems in all of this. But we're just getting mashed up. Everywhere we're getting mashed up. That's the bottom line. Whether it's on the ground, we're getting mashed up. Whether it's upstairs on the next day, we're getting mashed up. So people have to kind of understand what we're up against. We're up against some skilled people, but we're skilled too. But the way we're behaving, we're making things easy for them. Yeah, remember, if you don't organize yourself and come as a unit, it's not even about political. When you do that, it will be a natural thing that you go that way anyway. But if you're not organizing, it's like you're not interested. Remember that you've got to give up your time to make a change. If nobody ain't giving up their time, then what change can really happen? We could read books till tomorrow morning and the day after. It ain't about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's about mobilizing people, getting them to do whatever they're doing, and we all work as a unit. And it will lead to political things. And when you're strong...
I showed it to.
Yeah, that's all I have to say on that side.
Okay. Desmond says, Booker T. Washington argued for economic development, whereas W.E.B. Du Bois argued for political reforms. Both were criticized as economics without politics leaves people unrepresented, and politics without economics is unsustainable. My own view is that we need both economics and politics. Okay, I hear that.
Of course. Ricky.
Yes, yes.
Ricky, you did want to say something before.
And then Rafara.
Before Nick and then Rafara.
Yeah, do you know what? Right now it's like people, we have to accept, that we're living in a country where there's over 40 million, you get me? White people, yeah? And we're very much a minority. So when you're talking about political system, and it's not to say that I'm setting white people as one group that is wholly against so-called black people, far from it, yeah? But I'm saying that we do live in a country where there's over 40 million of them. We don't reach nowhere near them. To say you can make political reform in their system, yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, they roll who's coming through one after the other. They fund them, they support them. Yeah, they fund anything we want to do. Yeah, they fund. Yeah, we're not funded by the so-called black community. Do not fund the black community. Yeah,
True.
The white community funds the black community. Yeah, if so-called black people are serious, yeah, then it's very simple. Yeah, all you do, you got to get yourself skilled. You got to have some type of skill that you can develop, whether it's within carpentry, laboring, building, IT, whatever it is, whatever the skill is, you got to have that skill. Because right now there's places where you can go, yeah, where we can say, you know what, we got X amount of people, we got teachers, we got doctors, we got carpenters, we got electricians, we got builders, we can maintain infrastructure, yeah? And there's places you can go where you can buy a house, yeah, for £5, for £10. Go on to Liverpool, they're there. There's streets, empty houses, and people don't want to go there because the area is rough. But if you go en masse into them areas and say, you know what, we all go in there, we all got this skill, we're going to full up them streets there, streets upon streets of the so-called black people, and build a community, we can do it. But do you really want to do it?
Yeah.
Do you really want to do it? That's the thing. You don't really want to.
We need to create communities, places, man.
Yeah, so that's my two pence. At the end of the day, yeah, as much as the people don't want to live together, yeah, people don't want to live together, yeah, and that's the problem. You get me? We've bought very much into this secular lifestyle. We go home, we go to work, we come home, we deal with the family, we go back to work. You get me? And that's whether or not you have your business, or you work for another, or you work for somebody, or not. It's very much that we've bought into. You get me? And within that now, it's not everybody fits within that system. A lot of these youth them out there, they can't work in the school system. It's not everybody that's meant to go through education and go to college, go to university, get a degree. It's not everybody it's not everybody that can work that system. That's not the way it is. But then you gotta have examples. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You can learn a trade. You get me? You don't have to go that way and do that.
Well, the social climate's pretty hot, isn't it? I mean, right.
But everybody buys into it. So now when that youth man can't make it in that, and you don't see no other way, yeah. So then what's the result of that?
Yeah, criminal justice. Criminal.
Exactly. And then on top of that now, you got parents appearing in the youth, schools appearing in your youth.
That's right.
TV, movies appearing in your youth. Music is appearing in your youth.
PlayStation is appearing in your youth.
That's right. Certain music can't play in my yard. You get me? Because my youth stem's growing. You get me? Well, one's grown. I got one coming up still. You get me? So it's the influences that we allow and the influences we don't allow, unfortunately, that have the youth the way they are right now. And the fact that we can't come together and say, you know what, let's make a move and do this. Yeah. Anyway, that's that.
All right, before Rufaro comes in, let me just, another note that came through. Abdul says he went for an eye test today and the staff there was eyeing me as if they were observing me. I felt very uncomfortable. We are too used to fighting for scraps that the white man don't want. Okay. Desmond said Ricardo is advocating Frederick Douglass's approach. And that was why he set up his training college, so that everyone would have a skill. As he said, a person with a skill is useful to his community and the wider society. Okay, I agree with that. Rufaro?
Yes, brethren. Thank you so much for everyone who has put in. I mean, I'm just learning from everyone and putting everything together. I agree with everyone who's spoken about, the gentleman who spoke about Marcus Garvey's ideas being questionable today. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with someone who spoke about us just reading books and not doing action. I think I agree more with that, because today what we need is action. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about action myself. Okay, so I'm a filmmaker. I'm also an academic, so I study and I make films. I'm from Zimbabwe, by the way. Okay, so just a little bit of background. In 1980, Bob Marley came to play in our country. So our country has always been influenced by Jamaican music. Okay, so when it comes to action, okay, because I'm in the academy as well. So what happened is the academy, it's a story for another day. I've been instructed. I don't want to call people by the color of their skin, but I've been instructed. I mean, I've been made aware of the fact that we need to tell our own stories. So before this meeting started, someone was telling about stories. Okay, so I'm a filmmaker. Right now, what is happening right now is we speak. Like I say, I'm producing a film, right? So this film is based upon the dancehall. So in our country, in Zimbabwe, we have what we call Zim dancehall. Okay, so you guys you're Jamaicans, you know what Zim dancehall is. So in our country, Zim dancehall reduced crime in a significant way. Okay, so dancehall music for us is something phenomenal. So we are about to make a film about it. Okay, the film is called Sting for now, so that's the working title for it. So we can change it, whatever. We borrowed it from Sting, Jamaica. I think Tony Rebel used to do Sting. Yeah. That's where we borrowed it. But like I said, we are very much inspired by Rastafarianism, not just Rastafarianism, but reggae music in general. Because Bob Marley played it on Independence in 1980 when the Union Jack was going down. So we give respect to reggae music. Okay, so in our country, if any one of you have been to Zimbabwe, you know that dancehall is huge, but we've fused it. Now we're making a film. Why? Because we want to make a statement and pay a homage, okay, to this genre of artistry that is reduced crime in a big way. I'll tell you why. Because if we hadn't had that genre of music, our country could have descended into anarchy. We can go into why Robert Mugabe died. Somebody mentioned about Kwame Nkrumah. I can draw symbolisms and I can draw similarities to Nkrumahism and Mugabeism and everything until kingdom come. That's a conversation for another day. But we need to involve the youths. There's a lot of things that we're doing in terms of involving the youth. I stand guided by you guys. But like I say to you, I'm part of a few things that we're doing so that we can. But this film, I think, for me, telling stories is a huge way for us galvanizing the African story. Okay, somebody spoke about the fourth generation. We are only 3% Black people in the entirety of UK. It's only 3%. That's right. Okay, so after 70 million people, 3% are just Black. So we are a small minority. But how do you galvanize? Look at what's happening with music. Okay, the Western African music is taking dominance. So we can use those things. Those are tools for us. Okay, music. We can use film. And there's Amapiano is playing big. So a lot of our fourth generation kids, I'm working with kids right now, music, I think I've told Mark about this a little bit. We're working with kids so that we can, because I see that music is one of the fastest tools to get our kids engaged with what being an African is all about and what being dignified is all about. Somebody was talking about us being responsible men right here in Luton, right? How do we do that? We do that through music and film, through stories, through poetry slams. We need to have all those tools that young people can come to and do their slam ciphers. You know, we can do a little cipher where we can give them a theme to say, okay, look, we want you to do this. And then they come in and they match each other up with good themes to educate each other. So there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, I'm very much towards the side of doing action. Like Garvey was about pragmatism. Garvey, he didn't wait for someone to validate his reasoning. Garvey didn't wait for that. That's why he made so many mistakes. Okay, so that's just my submission for now.
Yeah, and we have to remember Marcus Garvey was also a poet. So
he was a poet. Yes, he was a poet.
Yeah.
So he worked in journalism. He was a pragmatist. He did things. He didn't wait for someone to validate him. So I won't go on for now. Yeah.
Paul, your hand was up, brother.
Yeah, it was. I was gonna leave it there because I know it's getting late, but I guess Rick actually, Ricky all the time. Ricky was on the chat. I never know if they're Ricky under Ricardo.
I know you never know, Tammy.
Love the reasoning, Bridget. That's to say, and you make a good point. You make an excellent point about the minority about. But you gotta understand, like, we're talking about community-based issues when it comes to politics. I'm not necessarily just talking about our people. And like we've always mentioned before, not every one of us that have the same skin color are for each other.
That's right.
So we're talking about community-based issues. So you're talking about all creeds of people coming together with one voting power and saying, these are the issues in our community. These are the things we want rectified. Okay, and we've got to be careful. We've got, you know, it's a long-term goal we're looking at. We're not looking at necessarily we're going to see the benefits. You know?
Yes.
If we instill it in our children from now,
that's
in 20
right.
years, what's the landscape going to look like? Especially, you know what I mean? Especially with the amount of people coming in this country. So, you know, it's more of a long-term vision more than anything. And like I said, it's a community-based thing, you know? So yeah, and just to touch on one quickly, you know, one of the reasons for Marcus Garvey not achieving what he set out to achieve was the infighting, or the, you know,
a barrel.
Yeah, you know, crabbing a barrel thing. I think this is one of the major things that pulls us apart and pulls us down. So yeah, this is one of the things we really have to address. And like I keep saying, like, you know, we had this talk about spirituality on the group today, and we're saying, you know, we need to look at economics, you know, and this is true. We do have to look at economics, but I think Ricky mentioned it. That's not really going to unify us. You know, it's the movement. You have to see the movement, and what we're doing is greater than yourself and greater than material gain. Material gain is secondary. You know what I mean? It's more about personal and collective development. You know what I mean? So if you see the movement as greater than yourself,
that's right.
I think that's one of the best ways to keep a group together.
True.
You know?
True.
So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Ricardo?
Go on, Ricky. You go on this, and it'll probably be the last question we take, innit?
Yeah, no, quickly. I want to agree. I just want to agree with everything that Paul was saying there still. At the end of the day, that's what, it kind of irks me when I see people get caught up on this black thing. Yeah? Like it's something like community is just strictly people that is of brown or dark skin. You get me? It's not about that, because at the end of the day, where we live, our kids, you can't say who your kid's going to end up with. You get me? You can't say who you're going to end up with. You get me? It's the community. You got to look past just yourself and the color of your skin. You get me? I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. And it's not to say you can't have a certain amount of pride or honor in your heritage. You get me? Because of course everybody's meant to have pride and honor in their heritage, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're whatever. You get me? But at the end of the day, we got to come together now. You get me? We got to come together, and you got, as I said, when you see, it's difficult, and it is difficult when you see oppression over here in your face, and you see a black man with his face in the concrete and a white man on his neck. You get me? Because that's filtered through the various mediums all the time. All the time. So you take it personal. You get me? But I say at the same time, you go abroad where the community is predominantly black, and you're gonna see the same thing. But it's a black man with his foot in the next black man's neck.
That's right.
You get me?
That's right.
That's right.
And we can't deny that. We can't deny that and think so that just because there's black people, and majority of black people, so that everything's rosy. It's not rosy.
No, it's not.
You get me? It's not rosy. Just because I got black people in the same place. You get me? I know I go a certain place, yeah. I mean, I've had arguments when in my youths, yeah. This used to get to me still because in my youths now, I'm not a dark skinned brother. And I've had African man. I've had fight with African man. You get me? Dark skinned African man because they want to look at me and tell me, so that you're not black. You get me? And I know so that in Africa, there's a difference in certain places between colored, you get me, and black people. And it's all black, it's all so-called black people, but they differentiate themselves, colored over here and black over here. You get me? So it's not the community building is more than just your skin. There's a lot that needs fixing. You get me? We've got to look in ourselves and we've got to look past certain things. Or there's nothing that's gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, your reality.
We're going to stay in the same mess.
Yeah, I feel your reality, as I know you as Bridget, you know, you're a black man, and that's just the reality.
Yeah,
whether they want to look at it and realize that or not, that's their business.
Yeah.
But you're right again. Within our community, we have black, we have white. You understand? It's a class thing. That's those. 1 minute, Abdul. Before the oppression is down on a class. Yes, in between that class, there's racialism, racist movements, but it's a class thing, brother. You understand? They don't look at our community and think, you know what, there's just be a black man over there. I mean, we're going to keep them down. No, they just look over there and say, I don't care who's over there. They're poor people. We're keeping all of them down. And that's the bottom line.
Racism is a real thing, but at the end of the day, you work with the people that's willing to work with you. You get me? Right. Because I see one thing
That's right.
You get me? I see one thing the other day still. It was a video still. It was only like a 10-second clip or something like that. You get me? And one black woman, she was there and she was taking pictures on the side of the street and thing. And one little white youth now gets into the picture because he's walking by with her father. And it's a little white child, and she's holding a black doll. You get me? And that's what the white father is trying to promote in his white youth. You get me? These are the things that we got to promote.
Powerful.
These are the things that we got to promote to get rid of all of this clashing that we're doing, because it don't make no sense. Because there's white people under the hill just like there's black people under the hill. You get me? Even though within UK, granted, we're more under the hill. You get me? But we gotta make changes still.
Yeah, we're in it together. All right, I think that's the last one, Mark.
Yeah, one more question, I think, and then we'll wrap.
All right, Abdul, did you have one more thing to say?
No, I got my views on things like that.
No, just in there.
When? Sorry?
No, just in.
Go on, Desmond. Abdul, if you ain't got a question, allow Desmond to step in. Go on.
I can hear what Ricardo is saying, and I can feel his pain as well. But color is an issue, particularly from the British Caribbean, because historically, the British use privilege light-skinned people over dark-skinned people. And there was even representation for light-skinned people in Jamaica. They were allowed to have their own political house, because people like William Garden was a businessman, whereas Paul Bogle wouldn't been allowed to have a business. And the history, that is part of colonialism and enslavement, because what tend to happen was that the offspring of Europeans and enslaved African, mainly women, were treated better than dark-skinned people. And for example, light-skinned people were never put in the cane field.
True.
And they were the ones who got to learn the trades. So when, for example, Jamaica got independence, it was the light-skinned people who had the education, they had the skill, and they became the ruling class in Jamaica. And there are songs about brown girl in the ring. And it is a real issue, particularly in the British Caribbean.
But there's a division. There was a division.
Colonial history of our people.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a division.
Yeah.
So it's a reality, really, that we have to just deal with that. Whereas in America, if you have 1/8 black blood in you, you were seen as black. So if in America you don't have this category of mixed race, whatever, so you're just black or you're white.
Mm.
And in South Africa, they use the colonial system to categorize people in terms of Black Africans and colored. And colors were allowed political representation under apartheid. So color is an issue for Black people.
Yeah.
Right. Abdul said, not all skin folks are kin folks. Do you believe we need a leader to fight for us? And Ricardo said, I think to what Desmond's saying, that was the system though. Yeah, that's the system. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for popping by and saying a word, you know?
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the turnout.
Yeah, greetings and goodbye to everyone, and hopefully see you guys soon again. See you, brethren, again.
Yeah. Work on.
Yeah, one love. Hey, one of the things we need to look for, you know, is the community start the school and everything there, because when we talk about action, I mean, we as the elders, we have a lot of skill we could be giving to the young people. Sure. So, I mean, secondary school has always been a part of the landscape in Britain. And that is something that could be looked at, really.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording right now.
Yeah.